1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All
One of resistance,
we are to spark and light the fire that will bring the First Order down.
rebellion,
Rebellion is built on hope.
and redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Well, hello and welcome to Star Wars Reactions. We are going to continue the show we started last time. My name is Aaron Harris. You'll be hearing my co-host David Motters here shortly as we continue part 2 of our interview with the incredible Jason Fry. David ran that for me. If you missed the first part, links are in the show notes to get back to the first part and listen to that before you continue on here. But it is a fabulous interview and a lot of fun information in there. So make sure you check out part 1. But for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy part 2.
Kind of piggybacking off what I just mentioned, Jason, like you said, maybe Rendezvous Point. I didn't double check to see if that is the longest story in Rendezvous Point. But, you know, when we get to Kernels and Husks, and that's, like I said, in the physical copy, which again, I'm looking at all 3 books right here, that's 10 pages. And what you do in 10 pages here, again, you're able to, you know, it's unbelievable. It's staggering what you do here in terms of, you know, introducing Simalu, talking about the Imperial Ruling Council, this Janus Grigidas, Kren Ballista Vani, Sate Pestage, Ars Dangor, of course, this might be a Princess Leia, and all these names, I might be saying them wrong, and Pubamaris Zorn. You know, 6 of these persons who are on the Imperial Ruling Council. But then you do a short little backstory on his life on Numas Riga. And can you talk a little bit about this and how you decided to write on Simalu, the very different feel than Duty Roster and Rendezvous Point? This is chilling. And I can, you know, rather you talk about it, but how you did this, and it's with Simalu and Fond Dacris, it is horror story level. But you do this in 10 pages. How do you do this?
Yeah, it's something you got to learn with the form. You got to work really quick. You got to make, I don't know, at the risk of being pretentious, it's a little bit like painting. Like I'm always really struck by how great painters can use, if you go up and look carefully at the paint, it's just a little bit of, say, white, just at key points in the painting that really bring light into the whole thing and makes you think there's much more there than there actually is. Sort of similarly, you've got to think about, I'm working really, really fast. What's the quickest, most efficient way I can sketch what a character is or what a motivation is? It's good practice. You know, one thing that was really helpful was writing a bunch of Star Wars insider stories, which, you know, I mean, if the Fact Pop stories are short, those are mega short. There's really, you know, they're almost too short to work sometimes. You've got to be kind of get the scene, kind of one twist out. Like that's really all you have time for. But it's a really interesting exercise to teach you how to be just kind of hyper efficient and fast. So yeah, a fun thing to do. The other thing about Kernels and Husks, I mean, we'll talk about where the story came from because I think that's kind of interesting. But once again, you know, as one of the 3 authors doing a third go round, like I wanted to do something really different. Duty Roster is a weird meta movie joke. Rendezvous Point is kind of a mini novel homage to something. What was a way to do something completely different the third time around? And a small aspect of that was, I wanted to work much shorter. And so, where Rendezvous Point is the longest story in its book. I mean, I don't know where Kernels and Husks comes in, but it's certainly not the longest in this one, and that was on purpose. I wanted to do kind of a quicker sketch and see if I could pull it off.
Mm. You did it. I mean, I'm just again looking at I purposely did it. I wrote the page numbers down and just what you do in 10 pages. And when you mentioned Star Wars Insider, of course, I get that. I'm looking at all those up there next to all my Star Wars books and essential atlases and ultimate guides, you name it. But yeah, like how quick and short those are. And it's interesting that you're saying, yeah, after doing Rendezvous Point, you're like, I want to do something lean and mean. And did you like I was asking you about like Cole Tackbright, did you in your mind, Jason, say, I want to do something with these cronies that are around the Emperor that we see in this movie it could give me a really unique, different perspective. How do you decide on Sima Lu, or is that how does that come about?
There were some false starts there. I tried to make a story. I tried to make work was going to be from a point of view of like Bothan agent, as Luke and company are kind of engineering the plan to rescue Han. Because I mean, my friend Mike Ryan has written some really wonderful things about this after some really late night bar conversations we had. Like the plan to rescue Han makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Right.
Go back and try to figure out what the plan was, and you just can't. It's just bonkers. So my first inclination was to try to do that, and it ran into several problems. One was that it was too focused on the main characters, which is something these books do not do. That was one. It ran the risk of going too far and making fun of Return of the Jedi, which is not the idea. And I was not confident that I could make that tone work. So eventually we pulled that idea. We said it just wouldn't work. The second idea, I wanted to do something behind the curtain with all the kind of alien thugs and drunks before the curtain pulls open and they surprise Leia rescuing Han. Like I thought it'd be kind of funny. Like, how do you get all these like kind of galactic barflies and villains to like keep quiet for 5 minutes? How does that possibly work? But that was kind of a one joke story, and I was like, oh, I can't figure out how to land that. And where's the emotional core of that one? I don't think there is one, so I kind of let that go. There are some other things I didn't want to do. I reluctantly said, well, if you want me to finish Wedge, I guess I'll do that. But Emma had already put her hand up for Wedge, which I'm really glad she did, because her story is really wonderful. And I also, a lot of people were just kind of assuming I'd do Wedge again, which I didn't like. I think that's really key to Star Wars. Like I said earlier, is authors don't get their toys, and so I didn't want to do that. So by now we were like Plan F or Plan G, getting a little desperate, and but I came back too. I'd always been interested in the advisors, and like, who were they? And they'd been treated in lore here and there, but never really too in depth as a unit, like individual characters like and Saint Pestage has a pretty important role in the old Dark Horses, and there's a bunch of stuff in West End games, but they really hadn't been explored too much as a unit. So I liked the idea of what are they doing there, and they're not always with the Emperor. Like, what are their relations? What are the relationships among them? Like, what's that like? And I picked Simalu for a really simple reason. He was the guy when I was a kid who got an action figure. The Imperial dignitary made by Kenner in 1985 is the character who's now Simalu.
Nice.
So, obviously that was going to be the guy. He also hasn't had a modern action figure. So I was kind of like, well, maybe we can speed that along a little bit.
Give him a little bit of action. Yeah. Well, no, that's brilliant. I love how you describe that. And then especially like you said, like, yeah, Wedge is part of the Star Wars story, and I'm not going to do him every time, but you have this wide range of people that you can talk about. As I was reading this, Jason, several things. I couldn't help but think about Nazi Germany, Hitler and his cronies on him, right? Did you have a little bit of that in mind, and how it's my understanding, Jason, right? And I'm not the biggest history buff, but I try to, know some of my stuff. But my understanding was that Hitler tried to get these individuals like Mengele and I'm trying to think of some other names, Joseph Mengele and some of these other really horrible people to kind of fight among themselves, right? Create these rivalries. So they were more focused on clearing each other out. Because like the way you start this, I mean, it's with a bang when you talk about how Simalu, he's always thinking about a list of people that need to be killed. It's like, bam, hooked, we're in. But were you thinking a bit about World War II, Nazi Germany, or not necessarily so?
No, really just sticking with Star Wars. I mean, that's something that's been in the lore for a while. The Emperor is always kind of putting rivals against each other and testing them. I mean, it's right there in all the Sith stuff with the Emperor and Vader, which I think Marvel has done a great job exploring. But you see it in Rogue One with Krennic and Tarkin, and you can sense the Emperor's hand in that, and it's lore going back to also the Advisors. So that was there. It's like kind of crabs in a bucket, survival of the fittest thing, and I think that fits with the storytelling of post Return of the Jedi too. That that's great when you happen to have that we now know undead demigod running an empire, but it's not so great when the when the only source of power disappears, and then everybody has to fight for themselves. Another thing I wanted to play with, like, I've never liked the writing canard that no one thinks they're the villain, that everybody, nobody thinks they're bad, and they all have a reason what they do, etc. I mean, that's probably wise, but I find writing that goes too far down that rabbit hole gets really tedious. Sometimes we really want a villain we just hate, just who's just psychopathic, and it's just deeply creepy being in their head. So I didn't want Sim to have any redeeming qualities, and that was a fun thing to explore. Though also a bit unsettling. Like it's not entirely fun to put yourself in a person like that's mind, and it's a little disturbing if you feel like you made it work.
That I was wondering, I wrote a note to myself here when you told this backstory, again, just lean and mean, and how it's during the Clone Wars on Numas Riga, and Simalu, this Fon Dacris, Dacris, I feel so bad for this guy. I wrote a note, Jason, Fon Dacris didn't know his neighbor, chilling. And the way that you have Simalu, rope him in and slowly kill him. But then also when Fon Dacris, with his head is under the kernels, and he can't even breathe, Simalu assumes, well, I think you can hear me. And wow, we're going to have some problems working around, some corpses and stuff, but I know what I'll do. I'll hire some droids or buy some droids. And the way you did that, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's horrible. Not just killing him, but let me continue to talk to you as you suffocate. And the very thing you wanted to do and sell me these tinnies, these droids, I think I'll do that now. Oh man, the way you did that, it's brutal, but brilliant, right? I mean, that's tough stuff. That's tough. But like you said, here's a guy where I like what you said about person. What I'm bad. I'm bad. He like knows he is. And then Jason, when you came back to current time and he's on that shuttle, and then his thought process about Vader, about Jerjerrod, about Tarkin being gone, and how this guy is angling to replace the Emperor. I thought that was great too, and the way you end that is just really, really nice. I have a question. I put a little note here to myself, kind of right around that ending point, where again in 10 pages you've got me going through a horror story here. Here's this question, Jason. Any plans for Alinka, the daughter? Or can you say? I thought that was great how you left there.
I don't have any. Lincoln was a character I inhabited. Good word. Well, I hope I did that, but inherited. She appears in I think it's Chewie in the Forest of Fear.
Oh,
yeah, she's a character in that. So, it was honestly a little awkward. Thinking of Sim, the psychopath with a daughter, and what does he want for her from her? But that can be a fun challenge. Like, all right, I've got it's like a recipe. Like, okay, I'm baking this cake, but here's a whole bunch of cloves. I got to make them work. Okay, all right, well, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
But the other part of this story is really interesting. You right?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was getting some back talk from my own channel. But the other thing is, advice I always give writers is, write about what bothers you. If there's something you can't get out of your head, there's something you can make out of it. And I had read, I don't even remember how, probably wandering around Wikipedia when I should have been sleeping, but I'd read a lot about, these unfortunately all too common farm accidents that happen with people walking grain. And there's too many, and it's what happens to Fond is what happens to farm workers too often, and down to those horrifying details of getting crushed and kernels in the lungs and all this stuff. And I read a bunch of accounts of these accidents, and I found them really troubling, as well as kind of the community reactions to them. Like everybody, they were tragedies and brought communities together, but those communities were frequently, opposed to kind of government safety precautions that were proposed. It kind of wasn't their way. There was something interesting there to play with. And there's an engineered accident like that in the movie Witness, which also got in my mind. And so the turning point, I couldn't get this thing out of my head, but a grain silo accident, like there's not an immediate Star Wars jumping off point there. But then I thought, like, well, okay, how could you deliberately engineer that to kill someone? And then, we have farm boys in Star Wars. We're used to them being heroes. Like, what if we had someone who, left the farm to just rise as high as he possibly could and not care about the body count left behind? And so bring those two together, and suddenly I had a backstory for this, kind of bishop-looking Imperial advisor that made me happy, because I thought that's pretty different than what I bet people would assume about that character.
Yeah. Yeah, the way you do the backstory for him, and not only does he call for the removal of all the people from the planet, which is an agricultural planet, how you tie that in, and then sells off a lot of the supplies to the Imperial Agricultural Division or something like that. It really works well. Even, the way that you have it be the case that Fond has, well, my family knows I'm here. Oh yeah, well, I told the Republic that you have battle droids and it's been bombed and stuff. So his farm has been bombed, and that's so well done. You pull all that together, gosh, in 10 pages. No, and
Dude, there's also a more suitable second marriage. Somebody might look into the first Mrs. Lou. I'm not sure that ended well.
Well, no doubt. Yeah, the first Mrs. Well, here's the thing. I asked you about. Oh, I got a little feedback there too. I'd asked you about Alinka because I had not read Chewbacca and the Forest of Fear, and so I didn't know that. And as soon as you said that, I'm like, wait, I think that's a children's book. And then I'm like, wait, why is Alinka in that? So that's, yeah. So you can see, because the first thing I thought about was like, oh my gosh, Jason could run with this, because the way you set it up, where would it be Simalu eventually clearing the names off, a list he makes, or is it his daughter Lincoln? I just thought, oh my gosh, I want that book from Jason. So
yeah,
I didn't.
That's a fun book. Forest of Fear it's a super fun read. But yeah, I mean, that's the fun of it, though. I mean, it would be awesome if if 20 years from now, some author has a Lincoln a Lou book, and I read this story back when I was a kid in that Return of the Jedi book, and I never got the idea out of my head. I mean, that's the great fun of this. You're always passing the baton, and people run these amazing courses that wouldn't have occurred to you, and you get to enjoy them as a reader.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Well, just the last thing that I just wanted to ask you about Kernels and Husks. Obviously, it just came out this summer, August, right? And is there, I don't know, is there other Easter eggs in here that I didn't pick up on? Or I just like asking you about that in all three books, because it's so neat to hear you kind of pull different things together, like Koltak Bright's name. I didn't realize that was the actor's first name. And things like that. But any of those in this one, Jason?
I'm not sure they count as Easter eggs, but I mean, I found them. I found them kind of fun. One interesting thing, there'd been a long debate about how many advisors there are, with people going over like stills from Return of the Jedi over and over again. And, so I did a lot of work on Wikipedia first, diving into that debate, and then finally figuring out like we had one unnamed guy. So, that was something that was kind of a little public service for dorks like me to like, oh, that unidentified Imperial advisor really needs a name. So that was fun to do. And then, of course, you got to think of a Star Wars name that works, and hopefully it's better than Bylord Valance. So that was neat. And that kind of overall plan about the Empire and what would happen if the second Death Star came online and the Empire succeeded. The Emperor succeeded. I mean, that's something I've explored in a bunch of things that I liked. It's in Warfare, that's in Moving Target. So that was fun to revisit.
Nice.
I guess the last thing is one thing I've always liked, and gosh, this is a podcast of its own, so I'll try to be brief, is the original story of A New Hope is so different than what we get in Empire and Jedi, with regards to Vader and the Emperor. Like, the original New Hope is quite clear that the Emperor, who in the storytelling at that point was not a Force user, but this sort of Nixon figure, kind of remote and shut away, like, Vader has really broken with the Emperor. He's kind of hitched himself to Tarkin as a way to get power. And, that's why in later canon, he's been made the Emperor's direct representative and all this stuff. But if you look at the briefing room scene in A New Hope, like, you can see the original story pretty clearly. And, like, Mahdi treats Vader with contempt and just basically laughs at him and calls him an old fossil. And because that was the story. Like, Vader's just Tarkin's goon. He's this sort of has-been that nobody respects.
Yeah.
And there's a little nod to that in here that I liked with, Simalu talking about Vader as a crude goon, inspires fear but nothing else. So, because stories evolve, and George Lucas, to his immense credit, like, saw a better story as he was developing Empire, and marrying Vader and Luke's father into one. Like, I always say, that's where Star Wars went from being like a fun Flash Gordon story, which, to be clear, was enough and was super fun, and that's where it became a saga. So, it was a storytelling decision that was, I think, clearly worth the sort of mess it created here and there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, for me, the biggest casualty of that is we lost this really interesting characterization of Vader in A New Hope. And I've always felt a little sad about that, because it was really kind of fascinating. So a little nod to that as we Simalu and the other crabs that are up behind.
No, I love that description by Simalu of Vader. I know specifically, like you said, that, just a kind of a goon. And that's what a nice little, quick little commentary on that original storyline. In A New Hope. So good. Well, we've been talking quite a while here, and I can't thank you enough for your time and just being such a great resource. Everything, that we've talked about here in Duty Roster, Rendezvous Point, Kernels and Husks, I hope people really listen, and hopefully it really expands their insight into this process and just how you think about stories and how to write them. I know every time that we've had you on our show, it's been invaluable. You've been so great at the season premiere and season finales of season 1 and 2 of The Bad Batch, and we just can't thank you enough for being on those, and then for jumping on tonight and discussing all of these. It's just so fun to talk, Star Wars with you, and just to get your insights and so on and so forth. So, I can't thank you enough for being back on again. So thank you. To kind of wrap it up, I did want to ask you, it's, when people have authors on, they always try to ask, hey, is there anything coming up? And the key way to ask it is there anything that you can talk about? Obviously there's things that you can't talk about, but anything that we, can talk about and kind of, like before when we talked to you back in the spring, we knew that, Timelines was coming out, and we also knew that Return of the Jedi from a Certain Point of View is coming out, so we put those links in our show notes for our listeners so they could pre-order and all that kind of stuff. But any kind of projects that you can talk about, Jason?
That I can sort of talk about. I mean, I've been doing a bunch of geography stuff with Lucasfilm, which is something that I think some people know that is something I really love and always have. And the results of that should be out in the world in the not too distant future. I've learned by now not to put a date on it, because it's kind of a moving target, not to refer to one of my own co-written books. but not sure exactly when, but coming soon. And I'm very happy about that. And then after that, we will see.
Nice. Yeah, I'd referenced earlier, I was going back through and I was going back through some different texts and emails and stuff, and I saw that video of you talking about timelines. And speaking of geography, when it was originally announced that at Celebration there was going to be those maps of the galaxy, I was like, oh no, I couldn't make it to Anaheim. I made it to Anaheim in 2015, but I couldn't make it this year. And then it was so cool to see that video with you saying, hey, if you go to Costco and buy timelines in the back, and you popped it open and you're like, look at this. Here's the map of the galaxy. And I thought, well, there we go. I got to get one. So that's really, really cool that's going to be available. And that's cool to hear that geography is a big interest. Well, let me do this. I definitely want to ask you, kind of anything you have coming up. And, where can people get a hold of you? That's the other thing we always like to ask of people that jump on. Like, in any place people can get a hold of you to talk Star Wars, Mets baseball, right? And any other.
Yes.
Well, I know it's hot stove time right now, right? I guess maybe not quite, but starting in January, right? But any kind of any place that people can get a hold of you and just kind of talk all those cool subjects.
Yeah, I'm Jason C. Fry on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it is now, but not for very much longer. Once I get my geography done and promoted, I don't think you'll see me there anymore. I am on Blue Sky though, and I'm jasoncfry.bsky.social. So yeah, come find me there. Hey, if you need an invite code, let me know. Hit me up. But beyond that, also, look for me to con. I'm always happy to talk Star Wars and storytelling.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for being on, and we look forward to talking to you again, hopefully really soon, maybe with some Bad Batch season 3 stuff. If you can make the time, we'd love to have you on and make it a trifecta for all 3 seasons. So thank you again, my friend.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Thanks again for having me on. I always enjoy talking to you, and I hope we do it again soon.
Well, that does wrap up our interview with Jason Fry, and I gotta say thank you so much, Jason, for joining and sitting down with David. I really missed being there. I wish I could have been there, but loved hearing what you had to say, and definitely echoing David's sentiments. We definitely are looking forward to having you back for the 3rd and final season of the Bad Batch. It was always a good time talking to you. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the interview with the incredible Jason Fry. We had a great time. I enjoyed listening to it. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did, because it is just incredible to sit back and to hear everything that is going on and the process behind creating Star Wars. It's just incredible to be a part of, and it's fun to enjoy and to be a part of. So before we go and start wrapping things up, of course, I do want to let you know, of course, that we do have the Star Wars Podcast Day coming up. You will see that coming up very soon. Matter of fact, and we are so looking forward to being a part of it again this year, because it's just incredible fun to deal with. That will be February 7th is officially the 2024 Star Wars Podcast Day. You will be getting special shows from all of your favorite Star Wars podcasts, including yours truly. We got a great show planned out. It's going to be awesome. But they will be this year. We're celebrating the 25th anniversary of Star Wars podcasting. So this will be it's a big anniversary. So we're gonna sit back, enjoy it, and hope you will join us for it. You'll get more details as closer we get, but definitely it's going to be fun. Also, of course, all the links that Jason mentioned there at the end, we will have in our show notes, as well as links to get each of the certain point of view novels if you're interested in those as well. If you haven't read them, I definitely recommend getting your hands on them and enjoying them. So, of course, we do want to let you know you can definitely follow us anytime, anywhere on any of our social medias. You can definitely hit us up on Facebook or X, formerly known as Twitter, at SW Reactions Pod. You can hit us up on Instagram, on Threads, on Pinterest, on Tumblr, where you can find most of our show notes, and now on TikTok at SW Reactions. Blue Sky, you can find us at swreactions.bsky.social. And of course, you can email us, Gmail at Carabast. I messed this up in our last episode too. Go figure. You can email us, swreactions@gmail.com. anytime you want. And of course, you can always leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/Star Wars Reactions. Of course, all links in the show notes, as always, to make it quick and easy for you to get there. If you want to follow, give us Carabast again. Holy snot. If you want to reach out and talk to David about his interview with the incredible Jason Fry, or about Star Wars or psychology in general, you can always reach out to David on X at David_Modders, on Instagram at DavidModders, or now on Blue Sky at davidmodders.bsky.social. You can always reach out to me anytime. Best place is X, formerly known as Twitter, at TAHarris121079. Or, of course, actually, no, that is it. Carabast. And I gave you all the show information, so definitely hit us up somewhere there and see what's going on. We definitely would love to hear from you. Well, we are off to a fabulous start in 2024. I hope you all are enjoying the year as much as we are. We're looking forward to a fabulous Star Wars filled year. A lot of great things we're looking forward to, and a lot of great things we got planned. So stick with us. It's going to be great. And of course, I didn't do it last episode because it was part one of two, and this is part 2 of 2. But I feel I need to get the year kicked off right and give y'all a Star Wars dad joke of the week. Excuse me. David's not here to endure through the joke, so I'm just going to have to get y'all's feedback on it, because I'll crack myself up no matter what. So this week's Star Wars dad joke of the week is, what does Kylo Ren serve at a dinner party? What does Kylo Ren serve at a dinner party? Give up? All right, here we go. Here's the answer. First hors d'oeuvres. That was for you, David, and you, Tom Gross. First hors d'oeuvres. There's no hors d'oeuvres like the first hors d'oeuvres. Oh, man, I wish David was here to groan. It's hard telling these by myself. Anywho, hope you enjoyed it. Thank y'all so much for listening. It is good. It's going to be a fabulous 2024. Next episode, David and I will be back together, same bat time, same bat channel, on the same recording together. So we will have a great time. Till then, thank y'all for listening. Y'all are the best. Y'all are the greatest. We love y'all. We're praying for y'all. We wish y'all the best in 2024. Like I said at the end of our last episode, make this the year of kindness and change. Do good to somebody this week. Do something good for somebody every day. And make that one little act of kindness change not only your life, but change the life of somebody else. You never know who needs it and when you will be used at the right time to give that support. So until then, remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.